back to Nikki's Scrapbooking Adventures. Today we're going to focus on the counterfeit forgery that we are going to do for those green alphabets in the Hip Kit Club main kit for May. So this is the alphabet that I am going to be using. It's by Spellbinders and it's an etched alphabet. The reason I chose this is because it is new to my stash. It does have some etching detail, which is pretty cool, and I'm going to make them green, but they're going to be faux chipboard. So I'll walk you through how I do that process. So I ran the alphabets through my Big Shot once, and I kept them on this cardboard, but that didn't work because I couldn't get the paper out. Now I'm just using scraps to make the layers. Eventually I will use the green paper that I've selected. So this didn't work because the paper never released from the letters. So now what I'm doing instead is I used a piece of tape that's single-sided. I taped it to the green board, and then I'm making sure that the letters have the release points outside of the tape. So then when the letters are done going through the machine, I can flip this over, use my pokey tool to get the paper out, and put it back and run it several times. Since I'm making faux chipboard, I need 3 layers per letter, and each letter needs to be duplicated at least twice. So this is hopefully going to make my process a little bit easier. Right now it's painful because I'm having to release the die from the backing, pop the paper out, which I just use a pin with, and then ensure that the release point is not touching the tape. So then in the future, what I can do is just lift it up, like I said, use my push pin to get the paper out, and then put all the numbers and letters back. So I'm going to continue doing that process. I'm going to run the dies through my machine multiple times so I can get multiple layers for the letters and numbers. And then I will be back when I'm ready to adhere so I can show you that process. Okay, so I have run the letters through a piece of paper. So I am going to pull them up opposite the side that I taped down to the green board and just try to get them to release from the paper. If they don't, not a big deal, I just pop them out, which is actually kind of easier. I have noticed that this O and the G have some difficulty releasing, as if it's just not sharp enough on some of the edges. So there's those. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip these over and get them to release from the letters by using my pokey tool. So I can just pop, hopefully, them out. Oh no, they're sticking to, oh, that one worked. Okay. Come on, there we go. Got the B. I don't really care about that little part right there. F. Okay. J. L. M. And whatever this is, I can't tell. Okay, so I'm going to flip them back over. Only a couple of them, but now I can at least grab it and pull it out. So I am just going to do this for every letter multiple times. Looks like I've got to use my pokey tool in addition to pulling them out. This J is not very constructed very well, and that's okay. It is a 9. So there's the first row. I'm going to continue to do that and keep these alphabets organized so that I can easily stack them up and glue them. And I'll go over that with you once that is completed. Okay, so I've cut out multiple layers of each letter at this point, and each letter has 2 white or neutral, and then one colored. And so what I'm going to do is take my Tombow Mono Liquid Aqua glue each of these together. Let's do that together. Okay. Making sure that they line up properly. Adding the blue one on top because that's the color that my alpha will be. And then pressing it down. So what this does is that it gives the letter a more chipboard feeling. Now, in the Counterfeit Kit, they had green alphas that were thickers, so most likely it's got a foam base. And you can do the same thing with foam. The only thing that I advise you on with foam is that it is hard to glue or paste to your layout. And I think this is a lot easier. So we'll do another one here. I add my glue. You can tell this is a scrap because that has got some random writing on it. I stack them up and I press them together to make sure that they're all properly lined up, and then I press them together to make sure that there's no air bubbles, because what can happen is these little pieces on the end can start folding up if you don't squeeze the glue into all the little places. So now, instead of being single paper thick, you've got a triple paper thickness. You can actually hear it drop, and this one's not even going to drop because it's stuck to my hand. Okay, drop versus drop. Okay, so this is, I'm going to do this for every letter. Each letter is going to have 2. The vowels and everything else is going to have 3. I chose the blue color because I already had green and light pink and dark pink, all of the other colors, even yellow. I have all of those colors except for this specific color blue. And I was lucky that I had this specific color blue because the Felicity Jane kit that I had made came with the extra colored cardstock, and so that's what I'm using to create these letters. So I know that this is going to match perfectly with the blue color that's in that kit. My next step in this process is to add these little numbers to this wax paper on cardstock. So what I do in order to make this piece of paper is I cut wax paper by 10.5, and then I glue it using either Tombow Mono liquid glue or clear Elmer's glue, and I adhere it to both sides of the cardstock. So I make my own sticker paper, and then I hole punch it and I place it in a binder. So an example of using this paper would be something like this. I made these faux flares by cutting images in 3/4 of an inch circles and then stacking them on top of other 3/4 of an inch circles, just like I did with the numbers, to make them dimensional. And then I used diamond glaze to give them a shiny top, and I used the best glue ever to adhere them to the wax paper so I can re-stick them on this sheet because I used that best glue ever from Scrap Perfect. It stays tacky if it's adhered to wax paper. See, totally tacky. I think you can use tack it over and over again. However, I don't personally have that, so I cannot attest to if that works or not. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the faux flare and place it on this wax paper using the best glue ever. Now, this stuff does not need a lot. You can literally put a little dot and it's gonna spread like crazy. Just like a little itty bitty dot. And I'm gonna fill my sheet. Right now these letters are pretty bland because I just use normal cardstock. And so they're matte finish. The green letters that were in the Counterfeit Kit Club challenge for this month looked a little shiny. So what I'm thinking about doing is painting these letters with some shimmering mist. Mister no longer works on this because I guess I didn't clean it well enough. So I'm thinking about painting one of the numbers, and I was going to do that on camera with you guys so we can see what that looks like. I'm going to put the lid back on my glue, making sure to get that little silver thing inside so that it does not stick inside that writing cap. We're going to use a piece of wax paper just to cover my surface so I don't accidentally get something that I don't want to, so I'll move this one. I'm going to take a Z, since that letter's not used very often. I'm going to shake this really, really well. I'm going to open it. I'm going to take my little paintbrush here, dip it in there, maybe get some more shimmers on there. Let's see what this looks like. Ooh, I think that's going to dry beautifully. My goal is to adhere all the letters to this piece of paper. Oh, well, faux. It's actually wax paper on cardstock. And then I'm going to also add the shimmers to this, for the shimmering mist. I don't think Shimmers is actually a brand. This is Shimmering Mist. So I have completed adding the shimmering mist to these letters, and I still feel like they're just a little bland. I don't know, I feel like, yeah, they're super shimmery, but they need something a little extra. So I'm actually going to try, like I did with the Z's here, to add some of this diamond glaze on top. And one thing you need to watch with the diamond glaze is the bubbles. So I'm going to do one here with you now. I'm going to do this A right here. So I think the key with this diamond glaze is actually to get this fine writing tip that they have at the Scrap Perfect website, because it allows you to get into these small little cracks with these letters specifically. Now this is the first time I've done this to letters. I have done this to circles like I had showed you before. See how I'm just kind of adding a thin coat of this diamond glaze to each of the letters. Trying careful not to stop, because when you stop is when you get bubbles. Now I did notice I did get a bubble in that A, and I'm going to show you how to get rid of that bubble here in just a moment. You gotta let it dry just a smidge before you get rid of the bubble, because it's a lot easier to get rid of it that way. Now one thing you have to be mindful of is if you're left or right-handed. I'm right-handed, so if I were to do the next row, I would be hovering over this, and I would potentially stick my finger in it or my hand, and so I need to actually rotate this so it's this way, so I can get to the letters easier. I got a couple bubbles in that one, darn it, because I paused. Like I said, you cannot pause with this stuff, otherwise you will get bubbles. And bubbles are super annoying to get rid of. See, I'm just going over each letter. Okay, let's go back to those couple of letters that I did get bubbles on. Again, I need to wipe off the excess glue, otherwise I'm not going to be able to get that cap off. So I just use a piece of paper towel or toilet paper and wipe it off. And then put the little metal piece inside the hole to keep it as a non-clog writing tip. So now I'm going to use my safety pin to pull the bubbles to the edge. See, now I have a bubble. That bubble's gone. That bubble's gone. Come on, bubble. And it's okay to actually pull it onto your wax paper, because when you're using the letters, you can just pull that all away. Okay, so the bubbles on the D are gone. I do have a little itty bitty bubble on that A. I'm going to try to do the same thing. I'm going to stick my safety pin behind the bubble and pull it to the edge. Now that was a lot easier because that one actually had some time to dry. So I have another bubble here. I'm going to pull it to the edge and then wipe it off. Let's see. I don't think I have any other bubbles in the letters. I do have a couple bubbles in this Z because I was just kind of practicing first to see if I liked it. So I got a bubble here. See how that just comes right off? I don't know if you can tell. Okay, that bubble's gone. And then I got another bubble here in the middle. Pull it towards the edge because it's a little dry. It comes right out. Okay, so I am going to continue to add my diamond glaze to each of these letters, making sure, because I'm right-handed, that the ones that I have completed on are on the left side of the page so I don't accidentally stick my hand in it. Then I'm going to let them dry a little bit, pull the bubbles out, and then let them completely adhere, and then I'll be back to show you what the final result will be. So we went from a boring, plain old die cut, super thin, very matte, to this super shiny, with shimmering color that has some thickness to it, alphabet. So I'm going to try to use this on my kit this month, and this is my forgery on the 4th. Thanks for watching.